The games were not made for me. Oh, boy.
How many times have you guys heard the line, this game wasn't made for you? How many times have you seen people running to the defense of a game and saying that, well, if you don't like it, stop talking about it? You know, they go and they start posting those memes where it's, you know, stop having fun, but they're still sitting on the couch playing the game. You know, this game is great as long as you don't have anybody screaming in your ear telling you that it's bad.
This is like those subreddits that ban anybody who's critical of the game because they're so coping because they spent $60 on a game that's a piece of shit. This is exactly it.
Stop seeking out negative commentary and criticism on a game if you just want to have your viewpoint reinforced. Stop hitting yourself. That's what you're doing at this point. I recently saw that somebody had posted an entire Reddit thread talking about me and my video on Avowed, saying that I am the one that's ruining commentary around games. I am destroying.
He's one of the only ones that provides fair commentary about it. Like, I've seen a bunch of the other videos about Avowed, and like, I'm sorry, but some of these other, you know, again, I don't like using the term, but some of these other like anti-woke YouTubers, bro, the National Enquirer has more decency than them with thumbnails. Holy shit. And you're going to compare him to those people?
Video games and the video game community. You guys are helping by watching my videos in the first place. Shame on you. The even-handed criticism that I had in my Avowed video where I was relatively soft on them in comparison to just about any other game or any other studio because there were parts of Avowed that I genuinely liked and I like Obsidian as a studio. No. I'm the bad guy.
That's right.
Have you ever
That's
noticed?
The same thing for me. I was the enemy and I gave the game a 7.
Just a good game doesn't need anybody to run defense for it.
No.
It just exists. It's just there.
It speaks
just does
for
its
itself.
thing. So it got me thinking, what are the chances that these communities are the ones that have been ruining games? We've
100%.
seen so many games come out to seemingly no audience. The quest for the mythical modern audience, where they seem to exist in certain social circles and social media, but the minute that a game hits the market, they evaporate. Where did it go?
They never existed in the first place, and they only put it out there. There's a lot of people who they want to have the right opinions, but they don't actually care about the video games. I've noticed this with a lot of games, is that people will say that like they're fans of a game. Like I noticed this with Metaphor ReFantasio. There were like 4 or 5 people that I talked to about the game, and they were like, yeah, I really liked it. I'm like, how far did you get? They said, I played the demo. I'm like, okay. Got it. It's one of those. Yeah, I never played it.
So it got me thinking. Who are these games made?
Yep.
Made for? Why are they making them for them? And why aren't they buying them? Maybe it's not me ruining gaming. Maybe it's you. You know how we can take back gaming? You can start making games yourself, and you guys can do that with today's sponsor, Boot.dev. We oftentimes hear people say, if you don't like the games today, well then go make them yourself. And here's your chance. I partnered with Boot.dev, the smartest way to master back-end development to help you build your own digital empire. At Boot.dev, you'll learn back-end web development from start to finish with Python and Go. And what's awesome is that Boot.dev knows that not everybody can afford a full membership right away, so you can sign up for free and explore every course in read-only mode. You'll get all of the theory and content without any commitment. Then, when you're ready to truly level up, a membership unlocks interactive challenges, progress tracking, hints, and full solutions. Plus, as you build real projects, you'll earn
It's good that they integrate AI into this, too.
level up, compete on leaderboards, and rack up achievements, all while gearing up for a career where backend developers can earn a median salary of over $100,000 a year. Every project that you complete on Boot.dev is a stepping stone to real-world success, turning your coding passion into a career that pays big. So head over to Boot.dev and use my code LegendaryDrops to get 25% off your entire first year on the annual plan. Click the link in the description, join the community, and start coding your future today. I can't be the only one who thinks that it's weird that while, yes, in some circles, some of the avowed criticism can be classified as reaching, the vast majority of it is relatively fair and observable in-game.
I mean, that Oblivion video had me fucked up. I'm going to be honest. Like, I watched that video, and that shit was stressing me out just looking at it.
Been an unbelievable amount of white knighting and running defense in the face of criticism and poor sales on Steam. Avowed is incredible, especially when you don't have a YouTuber lying to you. If you hate Avowed, you probably didn't play it. Stop comparing it to Skyrim. But if the game is so incredible, then why does it need this much defense? The same trend then plays out in Avowed Steam reviews. Plenty of positive ratings, yet their words say they're underwhelmed. Game is okay. It's objectively mid. Wish there was a way to rate games I don't recommend or condemn. Some even go out of their way to tell you not to compare it to other games. This isn't Skyrim. Don't compare it to Baldur's Gate 3 or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yeah, I wonder why.
It's this weird mix of gatekeeping and defensive posturing, as if people aren't allowed to be critical of something without being treated like enemies. Nobody is...
I think it's also people that don't like the game, or like maybe they didn't enjoy it a lot, but there's like a form of buyer's remorse. Where, like, now that I've bought the game, I can't think... I killed her, by the way, in the story. Like, after I bought the game, now I don't want to acknowledge that I made a bad purchase decision, so I have to defend myself.
Saying that you can't enjoy Avowed. If you do, that's great. But if somebody points out that they didn't, that's not an attack. It's called having an opinion. Suddenly, I start hearing that Avowed isn't made for me, that somehow I should have known not to buy it. Like there was some secret label that was warning me, but I had missed it.
Well, there was a label. It's the fact that it had pronouns in the game.
Time I checked, well, open world fantasy action RPGs are exactly what I play. That's my genre. That's what I love. But apparently, there was some secret subsection of that genre that I don't fit into. How does that make sense? Oblivion is one of my most favorite games of all time. I just finished Kingdom Come Deliverance, and now I'm playing the sequel.
I still haven't finished
hundreds of hours in Skyrim and Fallout. I love The Witcher 3, so how am I not the target audience for this? Maybe the problem isn't that Avowed wasn't made for me. Maybe the problem is it was made for no one. Because I've seen a lot of people arguing that games don't need interactivity, that realism isn't necessary, and that games like Avowed don't need to have those kind of features just for the sake of having them. All right, that's fine. Explain this. How does removing basic interactivity from a first-person RPG make it better? Please.
It doesn't. And the story was shit. Like, there are so many things about this game that were just kind of very mid. And, like, as somebody, like, again, I was in the cave. I had never seen the light. So even a flicker in the darkness was as bright as the sun. That's why I rated this game a 7. I didn't even realize Oblivion blew this out of the water in 2005. I had no idea. That was tough, bro. It was. I couldn't believe it.
Take the time to explain that to me. How does it enhance the experience when you can't pick up objects, when you can't touch the world, when you can't interact with doors, when people don't move around towns? It doesn't. Oblivion and Skyrim are decade-old games within the same genre, using many of the same systems, yet they feel light years ahead in interactivity. And somehow, we're not allowed to compare them. And why is that? Because it makes Avowed look bad?
Yes.
That's the entire point. If a game
That's the entire reason why they don't compare this to the other game that's better, because then that will make this game look bad. That's exactly right.
Came out in 2025 is getting obliterated by a game made in 2006 and 2011, and maybe the problem isn't the comparison, maybe the problem is the game itself.
Imagine
Look
that.
at the lengths that they have to go to. Yesterday I saw a Reddit thread pop up that was talking about me and my video on Avowed. And it was titled, "The Hate for Avowed Has Made Me Realize Something." I just fucking hate gaming discourse right now.
No, you hate being disagreed with, and you hate your opinion not being the majority opinion. You don't, like, it's not gaming discourse. It's the fact that they're not agreeing with you. It's that simple.
I just got done with a video reviewing the cope of a game and saying they should expect more from themselves. Honestly, why? Why does it have to be the best game ever? Why can't it be a good romp? People fucking suck, and I'm sad, and I'm over it, man. The top comment read, I
played this game, I beat the game, I had fun. Like, why can't you just have fun? Why does everybody need to tell you that you had fun? Why can't you just decide that for yourself? These are people like, nobody's telling me, everybody's saying I'm having fun the wrong way. This isn't fair.
Honestly, I think it's helpful to remember that none of this
is about... These people require social approval. They do. They do, and that's why they're the same group of people that are the virtue signalers. This is what I said. If you want to get rid of the virtue signalers and the people that are trying to put this stuff in games, take away their approval. Because everything is about the approval. They don't care about anything other than optics. And this is what matters to them. If everybody thought this game would be fun, they'd be happy. but they can't be happy playing it. Yeah, they have validation addiction. Exactly. It's narcissism. It's annoying.
Gaming, and it has nothing to do with the games in question.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is a global level slide into extreme partisan rhetoric fueled by both organic and inorganic media algorithms, the same mechanisms accelerating divisive politics that are bleeding into every aspect of life.
I love how you can say that on a Reddit that bans people for certain types of dissent. Don't you realize you're a fish complaining about water? You're sitting there on a Reddit, and this Reddit is banning people for having disagreements because this isn't the correct way that you can disagree. Reddit's the most inorganic place ever. Yes, exactly. Like, I had fun. I played the game. What's wrong with you? Why can't you just do that?
Keywords, trending rhetoric, and viral talking points. You can find them or some variation thereof in every form of online discourse. I'm not arguing any vast conspiracies, only saying it's an evolving consequence of destabilizing global socioeconomics combined with
the game wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. Like, I mean, you don't need to. This isn't. Just stop it. Like, this isn't community college. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this anymore. Stop it.
new technology that has allowed propaganda and echo chambers to spread like
Why
wildfire.
would Donald Trump do
to
this?
clarify further, I'm not saying that all criticism of this game or others is invalid. Actual criticism has always existed and is absolutely legitimate. It's only the hyperbolic hatred using all the same keywords that is nothing but a byproduct of a larger dynamic. There are many vested interests in the world who trade on, monetize, and utilize humans' capacity for hatred and fear. They've always been commodities, and now they've become one of the most powerful products in the global market.
Has it ever occurred to you that maybe people just don't like the thing that you're doing? Maybe this isn't some global conspiracy, but there's just a lot of people that disagree with you? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Lighting this,
bro, Nomad, big words for a small idea. God, I couldn't have said it better myself. Holy fuck, there it is, isn't it? Yeah. Well put.
Because it needs to be called out. This is the exact kind of caustic, self-defeating discourse that is poisoning gaming culture and the industry. Someone reads a title, listens to 1 minute of a video, and goes crying into an echo chamber because they're afraid that they have the wrong opinion. Nothing in this entire thread disproves anything that I said. Not one point. Instead of actually addressing any of my arguments, they go straight to political straw men, painting me as a grifter, right-wing agitator, or anti-woke.
Every time, bro. Every time. This is like whenever... These are like people that play online shooter games, and every time they lose, it's because they were playing against an aimbotter. Oh, he had a map hack. Yeah, of course.
I can comfortably dismiss my opinion without actually having to engage with it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't slap a label on me first, then you might actually have to consider that I, like many others, just didn't enjoy the game.
Yeah, imagine
Here's the thing.
that.
I don't talk about politics. I don't care about identity wars. I don't make videos talking about DEI. And that's one of the reasons why people like watching my videos in the first place. The only anti-thing I am is anti-bad games. And that video that I had made was about Avowed, a game that felt lifeless, that lacked interactivity, and it was a game that failed to meet my expectations as a fan of this genre. But these people can't process that. They can't seem to accept that somebody might just not like the game, so they have to invent some entirely different narrative, one where they are noble warriors defending against some political invasion.
This is exactly right. It's the Reddit, like you're fighting against fascism by tweeting about it. It's so exhausting. It's so just unbelievably exhausting. Chibi, thanks for the 10 subs, man. I appreciate it. I hope the legal thing is going well for you. I saw there were some posts. I'm glad to see people defending you and, calling out the bullshit.
Tell themselves that any criticism of a game is part of some orchestrated culture war, as if it couldn't possibly be that somebody just has independent thoughts about a game.
Imagine
this is the
that.
exact same kind of mindset that is hurting game development today. Instead of confronting valid criticism head on, developers and their most vocal supporters are retreating into defensive narratives, dismissing critics as toxic, politically motivated, or somehow disingenuous. They are unwilling to
It's
listen
all
to
a conspiracy.
actual feedback that could actually help them improve. So instead, they settle for reinforcing the same echo chambers that got them where they are in the first place.
The only way that these people can survive is in their own little protected reservations, where anybody who comes in who's like it's like a little protected space, like an endangered species.
No one forced any of these people to watch my critique. They sought it out themselves, and they got angry when it didn't reinforce their own opinions. Nothing in that Reddit thread disproved any point that I made. Not a single commenter, not one of them offered a counter argument explaining why Avowed's design decisions were good. Not one justified why basic interactivity had been stripped from a game in 2025 and how that was acceptable. Instead, they made a conversation about me and content creators because it's easier to attack the messenger than to face the uncomfortable truth. When criticism
It's easier to talk about a person than to talk about an idea. And that's really what it comes down to, I think, more than anything.
cannot be engaged with honestly, when people go out of their way to label or dismiss anybody who disagrees with them, all they are doing is insulating
Just a minute. Somebody said Asmon is biased towards Eastern games. How is he defending Monster Hunter Wilds? It's a piece of nothing. Listen, if you want to play Dragon Age the Veilguard, that's fine. But don't make me have to do it. I don't want to have to do it. Yeah, you're wrong. Like, your opinion's just wrong. Like, I'm sorry. Wrong opinion. You're dumb. Yep. Just, nope. Ban them.
developers from
Probably should
reality.
ban 'em.
This isn't just bad for discourse, it's actively sabotaging the future of
Yeah.
game design. If nobody is allowed to point out what doesn't work, how are things ever supposed to get better? This
don't
kind of
want them to.
defensive discourse sends mixed signals to the developers, and it creates an environment where studios have no idea who their audience is. Because when people just defend a game for the sake of defending it, when they attack criticism just to be a contrarian, they aren't helping a game, they're destroying it. This is exactly how we get games that are made for no one. Developers start chasing...
I think that also another big problem is that people are really outspoken about supporting games that, you know, have certain types of like culture ideologies in them, but they don't actually, like when the game actually goes on sale, not on sale, but when the game is now being sold, well, they never had the money to buy the game in the first place. So, like, they can virtue signal about how much they like this game and how good this game is, but they never played it in the first place, and they never had any intention to. They're fake gamers, yeah. Ultimately, there's people that talk about how good this is, but they're not actually buying the games.
They start building games for an imaginary audience that doesn't exist outside of social media echo chambers. Instead of focusing on what makes a game great, they're wasting resources trying to appease an undefined, ever-shifting set of expectations from a transient group looking for validation. It's how we ended up with games like...
they're not even part of your audience in the first place. They're not even part of it anyway. So true, yeah. Lost records, yeah, exactly. Lost sales.
Concord, Forspoken, Dragon Age the
Veilguard,
and more. Games made for Twitter discourse, not players.
Lost jobs.
Games that weren't fun, but were constantly propped up by people that needed them to succeed for personal reasons. Look at the ridiculous priorities that make it into modern games today. Games designed around whether or not you can pet a dog rather than whether or not it actually plays well. This is why Ubisoft thinks...
Bro, millennial game design. You can't break a barrel, but you can pet a dog. Oh, fuck. Please shut it down.
It's worth bragging about how many cats you can have in your village in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Oh,
it's why developers are spending time designing pointless meme bait mechanics instead of actually refining their gameplay. Look at some of the most common demands that we've seen over the last couple of years. Does the game let me pet the dog? Why are female characters so sexualized? Baldur's Gate 3 would have done better if it was an action RPG. Elden Ring needs a difficulty slider, and it has an accessibility problem. These aren't real design critiques. These are discourse points. These are demands from people that engage with gaming as a conversation piece, not as a hobby. Developers keep
Yeah, they just talk about it. Yeah, they're not even playing the game. He's right. Yeah, absolutely.
The wrong things, chasing an audience that only exists on Twitter and Reddit. And
when a character is sexualized, it means that they're not fat and ugly.
Sit back and wonder why their games don't sell.
Yeah.
Criticism is necessary. It's how this industry improves. It's how bad design gets corrected and good design evolves. But the second you start insulating a game from criticism, the second you start to punish people for legitimate complaints, you aren't protecting the game. You're ensuring that the next one is going to be even worse. You know, not too long ago, I was bringing up how people are so afraid of criticism today.
Yep.
So many people are afraid of any type of negative discourse whatsoever that oftentimes you'll see somebody over on Twitter put out their opinion, and if it gets rejected or criticized in any way,
the tweet.
they'll go protect it or they'll delete their account.
This is so funny to me. It's like people that they're like, all right, I'm turning off replies because all the Nazis found my post. And like, what was your original post? I hate white people. Okay. For sure, yeah. God, you really got the Nazis riled up with this one, didn't you?
That writer that everybody likes to hate, Listener Mercante, she posted talking about how anybody that was criticizing about, or some of the people that are criticizing about, aren't adding anything meaningful to the industry. I commented back simply saying that that's funny because they're actually contributing with their money, which is likely the most important contribution of all, and protected. These are the kind of opinions that are shaping games. Game developers will always lean towards their fans because they're most likely the people that will buy the game in the future or their next game or whatever it might be. But the problem is that if you're not listening to those that
what's happened is that these people have done a very good job, and you know the facade is beginning. It's completely cracked. It's done, right? It's over at this point. But for a long time, these people actively misrepresented what the fan base was. And they actively tried to gaslight developers and studios and publishers into thinking that actually, if you want to make a really popular game, you have to make it for this, you know, like wide audience of people that doesn't play video games, without ever thinking, why don't they play video games? And where is your mainstream audience?
criticizing your games, if you're being protected,
Fairness, they succeeded
from
for a
people
while. Yeah, they
that
did.
are trying to criticize your games, well, then your audience is going to get smaller and smaller each passing year.
They do.
If you're down to the point where you have to have your fan base out there telling people not to compare a $70 AAA full-priced game to games made over a decade ago, you're in a real bad place.
Yeah.
You're in a very, very bad place.
Please, guys, don't look at the 17-year-old. No. This isn't, the comparison's not fair. You see, back then, and the engine, no, it's not the same.
This is why we get tone-deaf games. They are making
That's
games
bad.
for their protectors. And these folks are contrarians. They see people that are out there, and
It's
they
like a
see them
steakhouse letting a vegan. Yeah, it's a vegan reviewing steakhouses. Exactly. Yeah, this wasn't for you in the first place.
themselves as white knights, and they have to defend the game that they like because, well,
Yeah.
they can't have a wrong opinion, and the only way
Of
to not
course.
have a wrong opinion is to go after those people. Anytime
Naturally.
they see negative comments, it sends their blood pressure up over 140. They're
No.
pulling their blinds down and checking out the window to look outside. Negative discourse can't exist. And because of that, it's painting an incomplete picture for some of these games for what a general audience actually looks like. And that's why they're not finding an audience that resonates with some
This
of
is
these.
like that guy at Ubisoft. It's like, how are our games failing? The critical reviewers gave it an 8. Yeah, the gaming critics said it was really good. Yeah, all the users said it sucked, but look at the review. Look at what well, the reviews said it was good.
Games. And now while the players are definitely making their contribution to muddying the water and making it difficult for some of these studios to nail down who their audience is, it doesn't help that these developers are looking in all the wrong places as well. I saw a tweet the other day from Michael Dowse, Larian Studios head of publishing, and it really hit the nail on the head because he was talking about how so many of these big budget games don't actually tell players what they are before launch, nor do they understand who that audience is before they launch. They rely on billboards, hype, and broad marketing campaigns, but they fail to build any real relevance or resonance before they release. It's a completely avoidable disaster, but it keeps happening because these games are assuming that they have an audience before actually trying to earn one. And that's where this industry keeps going wrong, because for years now, publishers have still been relying on outdated methods to try to figure out what players want. Metrics, surveys, focus groups, and curated fan feedback that's painting a imaginary picture of what that audience actually looks like. Now, what makes matters even worse is today's modern internet culture where people don't actually say what they think. They say what they think they're supposed to say.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody has opinions that are based off of, like, basically saying the thing that you're supposed to say, having the opinion that you're supposed to have. You're not going to go off of that, like, off of that narrow road. That's it. Yeah. Their opinions are given to them. Because of fear. What's everybody? I think a lot of the people that are in. So basically, a good example of this is that if you look at any form of media, no form of traditional published media criticizes any element of DEI, and it unilaterally supports it with no critical evaluation whatsoever. And you can very clearly see this is not what average people think. It's not. And why is that? Why is that happening?
No, they perform for social approval, and if you're a game developer that's listening to that, well, you're going to get wildly inaccurate data on what players actually want. That's how we end up with insane takes like PC Gamer's recent article claiming that today's teens and young adults aren't interested in romance in video games. Really? The same teenagers and young adults that are obsessing and shipping Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail characters, the same
to be fair, the ones that are doing that are actually 30-year-old bald men. But yeah.
Fueling the insane success of visual novels and dating sims, they don't want romance. Interesting. But because a survey told them otherwise, now developers are going to run with that and take it seriously and start making games under the assumption that this is what people want. This is what happens when you rely on performative data rather than actual engagement. If today's teens and young adults...
common sense. You really think that teenagers don't want to have the ability to romance a teenage guy doesn't want to have the ability to romance the girl in the game with big boobs? Do you really, let's just take a step back here. Do you really think that they don't want that? Because if you really think they don't want that, you are a retard. You're an idiot.
Don't care about romance. Explain why Baldur's Gate 3 blew up over its character interactions. Explain why Love in Deep Space pulled nearly $500 million in revenue. Because here's the thing, surveys, focus groups, and social media feedback today aren't about truth, it's about posturing. We live in a world where people unironically call a 21-year-old a former teen in a protected class, where any romance...
Former minor, bro. Oh my God.
...and media is scrutinized under a moral microscope, where people are constantly worried about how their opinions will be perceived. And when that's the environment in which you're conducting surveys, you are never going to get honest answers. That's why the best way for you to be able to understand what players want isn't to ask them. It's actually just to go watch what they're playing. Look at the games that have stood the test of time. Dark Souls didn't need to pander to younger audiences to be loved by younger players. Elden Ring didn't need focus groups to figure out whether or not it was a worthwhile investment. Baldur's Gate 3 didn't need to be rewritten for modern sensibilities to be the biggest RPG in years. Marvel Rivals doesn't need to have socially safe designs to be popular. The most successful games across multiple generations are the ones that focused on simply being great games. They weren't built for a specific demographic.
They're not built for an identity group either. I think that if, again, all of this, counter stuff of, we think characters should be made this way, or we think this should be included in your game, you have to keep in mind that the reason why these people exist is because they weren't being represented in the first place. And maybe the reason why they weren't being represented is because they don't exist in that space. It's the same as Kingdom Come Deliverance or a game like this. These are games made for guys. These are guy games. And you're going to make the game for guys. And if you do that, they're going to be happy. This is the same reason why manga is completely outperforming comics in America, is that comic books in America don't know what their audience is. Manga is defined by its audience. Shonens are for young men. That's basically that's the word. They know what they are.
Designed to be socially approved, and that's what made them timeless. But I think the biggest mistake that these developers are making isn't just using bad data. It's that they're trying to forcefully blend audiences that don't need to be blended. Instead of committing to a clear vision, they're trying to make a game that appeals to both youth and adults at the same time. And in the process, they're making games that don't resonate with anyone. I can't be the only one that's noticing how many mature-rated games are suffering from an identity crisis. They want to tackle mature topics, but they refuse to actually write or present them maturely.
That's because the people that write them are stupid. And they're not good writers. That's the reason why. So why are they not able to approach mature topics in a mature way? It's because they're bad writers and they're immature personally. Metaphor had no problem doing that. Final Fantasy 16 had no problem doing that. Disco Elysium, as far as I know, has no problem doing that. I didn't play enough of it to really know. Cyberpunk has no problem doing that. So no, it's just that they're bad at their job. They're bad. Like it's just that simple. Shit.
The language, sanitize the characters, and dull the edges of their stories, leaving players with something that feels completely disconnected from its own themes. The reality is, mature games, or any game for that matter, really doesn't need to be designed for a specific age group. Great games are ageless. Everyone appreciates a great game, regardless of their age, and the moment that you start tweaking the language, tone, and the content to be able to pander to a specific demographic is the minute that you're going to lose the entire audience altogether. This is why, from my perspective, I don't think it's
especially
really
when that demographic isn't your native demographic. I think pandering to your, like, you know, Stellar Blade, right? And having, like, the character and, like, all of the ass shots in Stellar Blade, yeah, they're pandering. That's absolutely pandering. But it's pandering to the audience that it's made for.
Worthwhile to target age demographics specifically in video games. Unless you're actually making a game specifically for children or specifically for adults, there really isn't any reason to design a game around who it should be for. Instead, you should be focusing on what makes that game engaging. Look at the games that have stood the test of time. Halo, Dark Souls, Final Fantasy, The Elder Scrolls, Zelda, Super Mario. People who grew up playing these games didn't stop loving them when they turned 30. And guess what? Teens and young adults that are still playing those games today love those games for the same reasons. The things we loved when we were younger shaped our preferences when we got older. How many people still listen to the same music that they loved in high school? How many games do we still play that defined our childhood, or games?
See, this is WoW players. Think about that. Yeah, WoW players still playing WoW. Absolutely.
That are like them. The core of what we find cool, exciting, or engaging stays remarkably consistent throughout our entire life. That's why games don't really need to fit a tailored specific demographic. It just needs to tap into the fundamental love of excitement, challenge, and immersion. Yet for some odd reason, modern game developers, specifically in the US more than other places, don't seem to really understand this. Instead of making a great game, they're obsessing over trying to appeal to two different audiences at the exact same time. Adults because they have the money, and teenagers because they think that's the best way for them to stay relevant. And as a result, we start seeing these games that are these Frankenstein monstrosities that are trying to be everything for everyone, but end up resonating with no one. Look at Veilguard. I keep coming back to this game, but it really is the perfect onion of poor game design and audience recognition. The more you peel back, the more misguided you find it is. I mean, think about it. The characters in the game, androgynous and sterile. Yet for some odd reason, they include romance. Why would you put romance into a game that you can't actually be attracted to the characters that are in the game in the first place? The writing was over-explained and fanalized.
That's a really good point. Why would you want to have romance in a game with ugly characters? Yeah. That's a great point.
Completely disconnected from the game's supposed mature themes. The core fan base, likely in their 30s, yet treated like children. This is why so many modern games end up feeling soulless, because they aren't being designed with a strong creative vision. They aren't being designed for a real audience. They're being designed to pass through multiple layers of corporate approval, sensitivity checks, and marketing analysis, stripping away anything that makes them feel personal, passionate, or bold. Instead of creating something great and letting it find its audience, they're trying to chase some imaginary audience that doesn't actually exist. The best games don't need to be age restricted to find success. They just need to be authentic. That's why games like Elden Ring and Monster Hunter pull players from across multiple generations, because they focus on gameplay first, and that's the most important thing. They don't compromise to fit some imagined modern sensibility. They don't try to be everything for everyone. I get that.
That's exactly right. He's completely right. And also, a game like Elden Ring does actually increase its level of accessibility because it's open world, so you can choose the path that's best for you. It's the same as Dark Souls. I think that actually, in a lot of cases, some of the best video games are very accessible, but that accessibility isn't a toggle on a menu. It's a gameplay style or a way that it's functioned, or the way it functions. I think that's right. I mean, it doesn't, is the meanest barrier to entry? Yeah, exactly. Skyrim? I didn't play Skyrim, so I'm not sure. Can you romance in Elden Ring? I don't know. Maybe.
criticism and language
Depends
at times
on what you
may
mean
be
by that.
colorful. But that's because it's authentic. That's because I'm saying what I
Fia
mean.
gives
and
you
I
a
mean what
hug.
I say, and my opinions, I'm expressing them openly. And I'm going to get some critical feedback out of it. I'm going to get some people that are critical of me. And guess what? I listen to that stuff because that's how you get better. You need that to be able to improve. But when you have audiences that are out there that are trying to shield games from criticism, shield these developers from the people that don't like their games, well, they're doing far more harm than they actually know.
They are.
And also, it's just rat behavior, and it deserves to be called out.
It is. It's
disgusting.
so embarrassing.
You know, these companies
so
have
fucking
to adjust
embarrassing.
and adapt. Their methods are outdated. The internet is often inauthentic, and because of that,
you cannot listen to or look at what feedback is online. You have to have your own. You have to be like your own North Star, and it's like it's such a weird thing where it's like you need to listen to feedback. You need to hear feedback, but you don't always need to listen to it. And I think that a lot of developers, they don't do either, or they do too much of both. Like, because for example, like I hear feedback for people that give me, but in some of it I take into account, some of it I don't. I think that's very fair.
Have misled creatives that are using performative developers to make performative games for performative audiences, a whole lot of pretending, a whole lot of bad data, and a whole lot of games without any audience.
Yep.
You need observable data. This industry is evolving to the point where it's becoming much more scientific. You need to actually observe your subject, see what they want, see what they're doing.
I don't even think it's scientific. I think it's just common fucking sense. Like, don't make annoying characters into video games. Don't make every single moment of seriousness doesn't need to be offset by a Marvel movie line, like some like little funny joke. Not everything has to happen like that. Like it is, in my opinion, shitty millennial writing. That's what it is. And that's all it is.
And then iterate on that.
Yep.
You know, I've talked about this before, but I was in on Baldur's Gate 3's early access. Incredible journey. Developer notes were really detailed. The feedback that we would get, the panels from hell, the updates that they would do. The entire time, while they were collecting data, they were doing polls and stuff like that as well. But for the most part, they just sat back and watched how people interacted with the game.
Yeah, let's look at it.
What did people try to do the most? What did they, what spells did they use? What classes did they pick? What choices did they make? They took
all theater kids bad? No, but all the people that are bad are theater kids.
That data and then iterated on it, and they just acted as a tailor, fitting it like a glove to the player. And that's how you get great games. That's what you have to do nowadays. You can't come up with some pre-designed audience anymore. That doesn't work. You can't go and read social media. You can't watch, you can't listen to like things that are said on Twitter or on Reddit, because oftentimes people aren't really saying what they mean. They're just saying whatever they can to get the most people to agree with them, because they need that interaction. They need to be accepted, baby, right here. Get that validation right into my vein.
Yeah, I've got to say the thing to make sure that everybody that I'm friends with knows that I'm on their side and I agree with them. Yep.
But that's what you have to do. You have to ignore that kind of stuff. You have to be dynamic. And I think a lot of these companies are still stuck in their ways. And because of that, it's leading to a lot of these games failing to find an audience. I love topics like this. You guys got to keep in mind, I am a marketing major that got into construction. I have a degree that I never got to use. It's the whole reason I made a YouTube channel to begin with, was because I wanted to understand what players' needs were. I wanted to understand how these games were finding an audience or how they were failing to find an audience. And I wanted to be somebody that could advocate for games to be able to reach audiences better. I think that once I get a little bit more comfortable with YouTube and I feel a little bit more stable on the platform, I'll probably start to try to get into at least consulting with marketing and customer outreach and stuff like that, because I think that personally, I think I could do a lot of help. I don't know. There's probably plenty of people that are out there, especially on Reddit, apparently, that wouldn't want me to do anything of the sort.
Yeah, I've offered the same thing. I mean, a lot of game developers, like if somebody's making a game and like they want help, like for example, like a lot of sponsors that I do, they don't want to hear it, bro. Yeah, they do actually. Like a lot of sponsors that I've done before, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way, and let's just see how the numbers are. And then we do it my way. The numbers are really good, and I never hear a problem again. Nothing goes wrong.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, well, like the video, share it with your friends, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. People have been enjoying me over there. If you didn't like the video, well, I guess I'll see another post on Reddit.
Oh, boy.
For that, my friends, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I think he cooked with this one, man. I really do. Family. Like, it's almost like I didn't even really have a lot to add with this because I just feel like he pretty much said what he needed to say. Like, I mean, it's the same thing that I would say, honestly. It's like if you want to make a game that's not made for you, you tell that to enough people, and then you're just going to have a game that's made for no one, right? I mean, that's basically what happens. Look, guy, I like it. Yeah, there's the video. Give it a like. I watch a lot of the Legendary Drops videos. I think that they're really, really good.